Hi everyone, and welcome to this Fan Art Friday video. In this video I want to work on a drawing of the Armoured Titan from Attack on Titan. I did work on a drawing of the Armoured Titan a couple of years ago, just like the Eren Yeager drawing, and I just really wanted to redraw it. I wanted to spend more time on it, put more effort into the line work, and just generally kind of adapt it to the style that I like to use nowadays with the comic panel in the background and that kind of layout. And I've just really been looking forward to working on this one. I love the Attack on Titan series, and the design of the Armoured Titan especially is just awesome, with the armour plating and the muscle fibres showing. I was just really looking forward to attempting this and putting lots of detail into those areas. After working on the pencil sketch, for the pen outlines I decided to only use one pen, that pen being the Copic Multiliner SP 0.03mm. It's extremely fine, so it ends up taking a lot longer with this pen, but I'm more than happy to spend that extra time if it means that the lines end up being much smoother. And I love working on these drawings anyway, so spending that extra time is also just really fun. And I opted for a side portrait with a comic panel in the background, and also had a couple of parts of the Titan, his hair and his chin, overlapping the lines, as a simplified way of adding more of a 3D effects to the drawing and just making the Titan really stand out from that background. After working on the outlines, I was really looking forward to working on the colouring, in particular trying out the armour plating. So I started with that first, and in the end I decided that it was a good idea to start with the cool grey markers, using cool grey 1, 3, 5 and 7, and just building up the shades from the lightest to the darkest, adding the darkest shading to the underside of the plating and towards the left side. And then after that I used warm grey markers ranging between warm grey 1, 3 and 5, adding some warmer tones over the top of it and creating some ridges and texturing, kind of like adding some ridges in rock and showing kind of a battle-worn effect, to help show up some of these scratches and these chips in the armour plating. I used a white Prismacolor pencil, and as soon as I started adding that I was really pleased with the effect it gave, using this kind of around the outside edges of the armour plating to define the shapes amongst the dark shading, and also just to show up some of the chips and the scrapes in the armour. And I just continued that same process for each of the sections of the plating. So that was my method for creating the armour plating. Then when it came time to work on some of the muscle fibres that are in between some of these areas, so the muscle fibres that are visible on his forehead, around his eyes and on his cheeks, I started with some dark colouring with a cardinal, adding some really deep red colouring with this and adding streaks across, trying to create that fibre texture. Then in between that, to add a mid-tone of colour, I used a crimson marker. Then to add more shading within these areas I used the cool grey markers and added highlighting with the light pink, and then finally to add some more highlighting along the edges of the fibres I used the white Prismacolor pencil. To add a little bit of colour to his eye I used light reddish yellow and eggshell markers, and then I made sure to add lots of highlighting with a Uniball Signo Broad white ink pen. And then lastly for the eye I used a white Prismacolor pencil to add a highlight running horizontally across, as it's kind of a really simple and effective way to make the eye look like it's really glowing. After that I continued the same methods for creating more of the armour plating, starting with the cool greys, building up the darker shading and then using the warm grey markers over the top of that. Also using the white Prismacolor pencil to add ridges and damaged and like battle-worn effects to the armour plating. It's such a fun process, and it was the reason why I was really looking forward to working on this and trying to create this effect. I used a similar colouring technique for his teeth with the cool greys and the warm greys, and then added some darker shading around the gums, also using the same methods as I did for the muscle fibres for that, with the cardinal and the crimson, building up some cool grey markers over the top of that. And then I decided to use the Uniball highlighter pen to add some highlighting to create that kind of wet texture to the gums. And after seeing how effective this was, I decided I was going to use that for all of the muscle fibres. So I started adding that to the muscle fibres around the eye, and just seeing this effect really contrasting the different textures of the armour plating, I was really pleased with this and I wanted to use it throughout. So after colouring the armour plating around his chin, I was then really looking forward to adding the colour to the large area of muscle fibres around his cheek. And it was in this area that I noticed how important it was to use the cool grey markers to add some shading, because if I just left it to crimson and cardinal, then it would have just looked so much flatter. But by using cool grey 7 and 5 and even the black Copic marker to add some shading underneath the armour plating where it's overlapping the fibres, just adding that shading and trying to kind of define the shapes within the fibres, it was so much fun, and I was really pleased with the effect it gave. And then also using the Uniball highlighter pen to create that texture, I was really pleased with this, and hopefully it worked out. I continued the same colouring techniques for the rest of these areas, and even used a similar armour plating technique for his ear, using the same colours for that. And then when it came time to adding colour to his hair, I wanted to keep it nice and simple, as to not kind of take away from the details I added to the armour plating and the muscle fibres. So I added a base layer of colour with cool grey 3, and then added shading to the undersides of some of the lower parts of the hair with cool grey 5 and 7. Then, for the final stages of this drawing, for the background I added a layer of shading with cool grey 3, and left an area towards the bottom to show where the steam is pouring out of the Armoured Titan. Then, to create a layered effect within this, I added layers with cool grey 3, the white Prismacolor pencil, and the Uniball highlighter pen. I also used the highlighter pen to add a highlight going around the Armoured Titan, and to add some particle effects in the background. And after that, this drawing was completed. Overall, this drawing took about 5.5 hours to complete, and as you can probably tell, I absolutely loved working on it. I had been looking forward to working on this one for a long time. Trying to create the contrasting textures between the armoured plating and the muscle fibres turned out to be so much fun, and I would really like to work on some more drawings like this soon. If you have any suggestions for future fan art, fantasy art or tutorial videos, then please let me know in the comments below. Any suggestions are hugely appreciated. If you enjoy videos like this, then make sure you're subscribed, and any likes or shares really mean a lot to me. If you want to follow my progress and keep updated with all of the stuff I work on through the week, then be sure to check out the links in the description box below to check out my Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And once again, thank you so much for the support, and thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you all soon.